And away we go. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight on the College Football Mafia. What are we calling this day, Moen?
It's Big Freakin' Friday.
Big Freakin' Friday, which is the name that Moen gave it, and so we're going to stick with it for a while. Glad to have everybody here tonight. You can see I'm still on borrowed equipment. I'm using my laptop to do my show here tonight, so I have to apologize for the horrible view. I'll be looking up at another screen. It's not native, but at least it's something we can do tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here on another NFL Draft second day Friday. I really want to thank my co-contributors being here with me, and that would be the Wild Ute, Immaculate, and Moen. How we doing tonight, guys?
Doing amazing.
Having a pretty good Friday so far.
Pretty good Friday. That was Big Freakin' Friday is what we're shooting for, Immaculate.
Well, it was a big freaking Friday in downtown Scottsdale where I was today, so if that means anything for it.
Did you guys have a big get-together for the draft? Did they do something out at the stadium?
That's out in the West Valley. It's a beautiful day out here. It's like 75 degrees, breezy. Right. I had some business down in the lawyer's office down in Old Town Scottsdale, and there was nothing but bachelorette parties walking around that place. It was
bachelorette parties.
Yeah,
nice.
Like
that's good
10,
to hear.
No joke, about 10 of them. I'm like, where's all the guys at? It was wild.
Well, I really appreciate you being here with us tonight, Immaculate. We're going to have some good conversation tonight about Florida State, lawsuits, and kind of what the state of college football is in right now with all the news that's been covering college football in the last 7 days. I want to thank Ute and Moen for being here. How are you guys doing tonight?
Living the dream. Living the freaking dream right now. So happy the weekend's coming. It's here. Georgia Tech. Cheers.
Georgia Tech. There we go. Good
Tech,
drinking
check.
game, Georgia Tech. How about you, Moen?
We're just having a toga party over here at the Moen house.
I see
Wow.
that. Toga. That's nice. Appreciate everybody for being here. I'm not sure how many people are going to be actually watching tonight because the NFL Draft Day 2 is actually this evening. So we're going to have some fun. Hopefully we can do some entertainment. Everybody can tip it back a little bit and get some Georgia Tech drinks, and we'll sort of go from there. Thanks for everybody being here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and then follow us all on Twitter. And last but not least, make sure you turn on your notifications so you know both when the show is on and then when we have tweets going out. Especially, I would tell everybody to follow Immaculate. He's at the cutting edge of news that's going on in college football right now. And everybody really enjoys his comments. So make sure you follow him as well.
Almost everybody.
What's that?
Almost everybody.
Oh, I think most should. If they're not already, they should be. I'm going to run a video here so everybody understands how you can become a member of the College Football Mafia family, and then we'll go from there.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
And while we're at it, let's do some shout-outs to start off tonight. We got David Hackett's first one in the house. Make sure I'm doing these in order. Sorry, Timothy Green was first. He says, the Moody Blues was a very good band back in the day, and Georgia Tech. So we know what Timothy's doing tonight. Appreciate you being here, Timothy. A great member of the family. Here's David Hackett, another OG. Thank God it's Friday with Big 12 Mafia. Thank you so much for being here, David. We really appreciate it. Big Lubbock says he's number 3. Thank you very much. What's going on in Wisconsin right now, Ryan Willie? Good to see you. You're going to have to tell us what you're thinking about right now. Did anybody at Wisconsin get drafted? I don't remember seeing anybody. You'll have to let us know.
That's just their fight calls. It's on Wisconsin. And I replied to him properly with, little Go Hawks.
Gary,
wait, so it's on Wisconsin? I need to know a little bit more about
Wisconsin.
That.
Yeah, that's
go on Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's like onward Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. You got to say that with a little more passion, you. Come on.
On Wisconsin.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go. Ryan Willie getting it on Wisconsin. Let's see. TF Williams says, go Knowles. Follows that up with Timothy Green saw they Moody Blues with Richmond Symphony was also awesome.
Nice.
I always wanted to watch or see Moody Blues in concert. They have quite a few songs that I like growing up for sure. Let's see here. Daniel Gygax, another member of the family, says, hi, everyone. Clint Moses, good to see you, Clint. I'm glad you're coming around again. I know it's been tough for Oregon State the last several months, but hey, you guys had a first-round draft pick last night, and BYU and Utah did not. So I think you're doing okay. You're making out okay this weekend. West Virginia Earl says, what's up, everyone? Illini Ted. Illini Ted was on Discord with us last night, wasn't he, Moen?
Oh, yeah. We were all watching the draft and getting our hearts broke.
Yeah, that's true, for sure. Daniel Gygax was there as well. I want to make sure he knows we're paying attention. Let's see here. King Spleen says, greetings, guys. Mr. Ed Wayner also was on the Discord with us last night. Says, hi, everyone. The sporting world was not kind today to the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, let's talk about Michael Penix. I have an opinion. I'm a UW fan, though. So let's go to you. What did you think about that?
I love Penix as a player. I think that he's a great pick for any franchise. So there's that aspect of this. So I don't criticize the pick, but like the roster management could be very criticized with what Atlanta's doing.
Yes.
Because usually this blows up the notion of having a cheap quarterback and building a strong roster around a cheap quarterback. It's just you've got an expensive quarterback and a cheap quarterback who's going to get more expensive right after the expensive quarterback leaves. So from a roster construction standpoint, it's crazy. But I still hope it works out because I like Penix. So let's
Very
go.
good.
Let's go Falcons.
Moen, what'd you think?
It was the worst draft pick of the first round.
That's what we said last night, isn't it?
Why would you draft a quarterback after you just signed a quarterback to a 4-year deal with, I think, 48 million of that money guaranteed?
100 million.
First 2 years. The first 2 years
The
are
first 2 years are guaranteed, right?
Yep.
So unreal. I have no idea why you would do that unless you plan on trading him or getting rid of Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins has a better track record in the NFL than Michael Penix. So,
what do you think about it, Immaculate?
I didn't understand it at all. I mean, like, I'm going to say what Ute was saying is that great for Penix. In my opinion, he might end up being the best person out of this entire draft if he stays healthy. If he is,
Right.
I don't even think it's close. He's absolutely the guy I would take, number one pick, if I needed a quarterback. It's just the problem is the health. But for them their quarterback situation, that seems like the worst place. I mean, we even saw their GM getting the business from the owner over it. I have to think that you might be right that he's looking at going, wow, he fell to us and he's such a huge talent. We're going to showcase him. We're going to, maybe in practice stuff and see that he's healthy. And then we're going to try and trade him and try and get more out of him than the value. You see what I'm saying? Like they might maybe get like a couple guys for him out of a trade or something. I don't know. Because are you trying to sit him to so he gets healthy? I mean, I don't get it because a 4-year deal with the other guy, you're still eating a ton of money.
I think they thought somebody behind them was going to jump up and grab him.
Seattle wanted him. They did try to trade up. Atlanta turned him down.
Right. And Atlanta, I think, drafted him thinking somebody else was going to come with a better package. That's the only explanation for it.
Right.
It makes no logical sense otherwise unless you plan to trade him. And the best time to trade him was last night.
A few stats. He's 24 years old. If he sits behind and waits 2 years, he's now 26 years old. That's pretty old to be a first-time starting quarterback in the NFL. On top of that, they give up the salary advantage. Seahawks and Kansas City in the last 14 years built Super Bowl champions by having the cheap-ass quarterback and stacked defenses. That's how you win. Roster management is how you win Super Bowls. You don't do it by signing a free agent quarterback for guaranteed money and then draft his replacement at some future term. It just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, no one's going to trade for the other quarterback. I mean,
right.
I was actually surprised he got this job.
Yeah, right.
So
I wouldn't have taken Cousins.
You're stuck with him for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's just, no, I mean, no doubt. I get why the owner's giving him the business. Like, what are we doing here? That's
right?
my money, by the way. Just thought I'd remind you. What the hell are you doing? It doesn't make any sense, and that's what pisses me off because I really want to see Penix do well, and I just think that he's going up against a high incline right now, and that's not good.
I'm of the mind that he could be replaced. He could be week 6 starter. Penix might just replace him.
Yeah, easy.
Right
like
away.
If he's healthy, dude, that guy is he's a way better quarterback already right now, day one. He just may
it's
not.
The guaranteed money, though. The guaranteed money is the thing that makes.
Yeah, that's hamstrings you.
It's like,
yeah.
I hope it works out still because Penix is so likable.
He's a great kid. He's a great kid. Yeah.
I had no idea he was that fast. Like when he ran the 40.
Right.
What was it? Like 4.2, 4.3?
I thought it was 4.5, but for a quarterback, it's really
quarterback.
good.
He was burning.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, wait a minute, this guy, because he never did that in quarterback, because he was always such a good pocket, such a good pocket presence. He never had to, but in the NFL, you might have to. You're going up against better defenses, and he can.
Well, and he has the quickest release I've seen in a recent NFL quarterback draft. His release is so quick that, anyway, I totally agree with you guys. We'll have to see where that ends up. Let's get to some more shout outs. I was on here. Let's see. Clint Moses says Seahawks. Thank you very much, Clint. Sorry, for some reason my mouse just jumped on this laptop. Wanted to get some more shout outs done, and now I can't find
some more shout outs going.
I'll just start somewhere. I'll grab something in the middle. Here we go. Tony Lawson, that's where I wanted to be. Says Wild Ute has a Utah turnover chain.
Yeah, but
you're going to show everybody what that is?
No, check it out. Okay, I got 2 things to show you. So, Gridiron Goose right here. This is Gridiron Goose, and the lucky chain right here for the Chiefs to have a good draft today, guys.
There we go. I love it. Let's see here. Johnny Bard's here. FSU 91 says, hey, all. Let's see. Cougar Tracks. Good to see you, Cougar Tracks. It's been a minute. Appreciate you coming back. Good to see you. BYU has had a great weekend. Even though they didn't have a good draft yesterday, their whole team came back except for one player after losing Mark Pope, which is remarkable in modern-day college basketball. That's crazy. We'll have to do that on a different show. Kyle Visser says, who the hell is that guy with no costume? Who is
right here?
Yeah,
I don't know. Natural, Mo.
He's a Roman senator, duh.
There you go. Roman senator. I like that a lot.
Look at the people doing
that's his business outfit.
Scrappin' Wolf says, I'm not sure what that was for, but there you are. Don in Kansas says, howdy, y'all. It's good to see you, Don. Steve Ohio, Florida. How you doing, Steve? How's Florida tonight? On Wisconsin is their fight song. There you go. Hell of a band. Very good. BR, man, it's been a minute. BR, good to see you. Glad to have you back. He's an OG. BR is. Replica says good evening. Let's see here. Mr. Monkey says, here we go. In the monkey. The monkey is here.
The monkey's in the house.
Yeah, Antoine Codes, another one of our members, says 2 former Sun Devils went in the first round last night. Herman Edwards screwed ASU big time, cheated, got caught, and wasted the talent he had.
He screwed the Utes too, because Jaden Daniels is about to commit to Utah. He's right there between Arizona State and Utah when he was in the recruiting process. He was an elite prospect, and he flipped to ASU last minute because of this cheating stuff, because of Herm and the Sun Devils. What could have been Jaden Daniels at Utah?
What could have been. BYU beat him, by the way.
Everyone beat him. Yeah, until he went to LSU. Well, he still lost.
He wasn't that good at ASU. It's like it wasn't that much of a loss.
Coy is in the house, says all hail Chicago. Best 2 picks yesterday. How do you guys think about the Chicago Bears last night?
Really good draft so far. Odunze is going to be such a stud, and Caleb Williams, he's a crybaby and everything, and he's a head case, but the guy's uber talented. He's the best college player I've ever seen live play. He really is. He's amazing. So I think that he's going to be really good. He could be one of the best players in the NFL if he can get his head on straight. Just don't know if he can do that. We'll see. But that pair's great. I love it.
Chad Bracey, good to see you, Chad. It's been a minute since we've seen you too. Thanks for being here. He says good times. Replica is talking about the Falcons here really quick. Drafted Penix so they can avoid bottoming out if Kirk doesn't work out. Most NFL GMs would rather be average than try to win a Super Bowl. If that was the strategy, I think that is the dumbest reason to draft a quarterback at the 8th pick.
To be fair, they're not in a good division either.
Right, that's true. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Rock Chalk 94 says, "Hey guys, good to see you, Rock Chalk." Boy, we've got a bunch of people in here tonight, guys. Hummus Hero says, "Moody Blue." Well, thank you very much, Moen. Do it again. Hummus Hero says, "Moody Blues, like the 60s version Tuesday afternoon or 80s comeback version, Your Wildest Dreams." Your Wildest Dreams is one of my favorites. Yeah. Let's see here. That was a great church dance song. Your Wildest Dreams was. Go Black 45 says 24 of the 32 picks came from the P2. FSU and Clemson will commit crimes to get into the P2.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's not wrong.
It's concerning. I think it's concerning, obviously, if you're outside the P2.
Remember, though,
he's right about FSU and Clemson.
It's just the first round, though. Like it matters and it's a big deal, but I would hold my judgment until I see the whole draft. Like you can still have an amazing team that has a bunch of second rounders and third rounders and fourth rounders. I mean, you could look at some of the people who were in the first round and say, I don't even know if I necessarily would have wanted on my team.
Right.
I'm not going to say names, but you know. So while it is a thing, I would hold judgment.
The first defensive player was taken at 14 or 15. That's crazy.
It's wild. I mean, extreme.
That's absolutely crazy. Anyway, Steve Ohio corrects me. He says he's back in Ohio from Florida. Good to see you, Steve, again. Appreciate you being here. And then last but not least, we got Minnesota Seminoles saying hello. So let's start there with Minnesota before we get into other stuff. Moen, why don't we talk about Minnesota a little bit? Sorry, Florida State.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about Florida State because ain't nothing happening at Minnesota.
I said Minnesota because they put it on there.
Yeah, nothing's happening at the University of Minnesota. But Seminoles, they've had quite the week for the Florida State Seminoles, from their court hearing with their sloppy lawyer work that they have to redo, to Mike Alford, the AD, visiting Chicago to see some boosters, which you can talk a little bit more about how many boosters are in Chicago.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually get an image up here in a second. So
he went to Birmingham too.
Yeah, very interesting that he went to, Chicago, that also happens to be the headquarters of the Big Ten Conference. So he enjoyed seeing the boosters up there in the Windy City, which there are very few of. And then Ashley Moody, she came out and she sued the ACC as well. So now we've got Florida State suing the ACC, the state of Florida suing the ACC, Clemson suing the ACC. Pretty soon, College Football Mafia is going to have to sue the ACC just to get in on the action.
What state's that going to happen in?
State of confusion.
Keep going, Moen. Let me post the links to both those things.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second to get that in. So both these articles that Moen was just talking about involve Florida State. Each one of them has their own little piece to it. But the bottom line is Florida State's been very active this week. And you wanted to talk about which part of that did you want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about more of this story right here about Alford going to Chicago, of all places, to talk with FSU boosters, which seems just a little bit odd. I mean, how many FSU boosters are in the Chicago area in Illinois? So I decided to do a little bit digging and stuff just to look at where the alumni are located for Florida State here. Just maybe there's just a huge contingent in Illinois. So here we go. This is what it looks like. This is the most recent information available. Here's the Alumni Association for Florida State. Bottom left, you can see the alumni populations here. So, of course, the state of Florida, heavy concentration of Nole fans, like we know that. Hopefully everyone can see that. It's a little bit blurry. But around a little over 50% resides in Florida, FSU grads, alumni. Roughly 6% in Georgia, 3% in North Carolina, 2 to 3% in Texas, and 2 to 3% in California. And that makes up the large contingent of where FSU folks are located. So the fact that Alford is in Chicago is very fascinating to me. Why do you guys think that Alford's in Chicago?
Well, I got some answers from folks on Twitter about that. One of the things they're saying is that that particular chapter or whatever they're called that's in Chicago is actually central to helping folks get up there for their, I guess they have a game against Notre Dame. Does that sound familiar?
Who does?
Florida State. Like they're
Next
traveling.
year? I can look them up. Let me see.
But I don't think that's the whole of it though, because they had like a 8-stop trip tour where they're going to 8 different cities where they have these chapters at. One of those stops was in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm sure you know what's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
There's another headquarters there. And then one of them's in Chicago. So a quarter of this trip had locations where there are, I guess we'll say P2 conference headquarters located. That doesn't mean that that was the reason for going there. But if you're there.
Yep. Notre Dame plays
You're
on
there.
November
Right,
9th.
I mean, you can, as a school, you can reach out to whomever you want to. The conference can't reach out to you, but if you come up there and you walk in the door and be like, hey, what's up, guys? I mean, there's no tortious interference. So
Tony Petiti, you want to get lunch, right? Like that's kind of how
there's some
business
pretty
works,
good
right?
food joints in Chicago, man.
Right?
Like you got a lot of choices. I mean, you're sitting there at the bar and someone pops up a squat on the stool right next to you. I mean, hey, might as well talk.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And he made a comment that
I'm
says
trying to
that
get the schedule.
he expects to be in the Windy
up.
City a
So-
lot more in the future.
There you go. Go ahead.
It was a statement. I was just saying he made a statement to the folks there who was asking him that he expects to be in the Windy City a lot more in the coming months and in the future. I don't know, I remember exactly, but he basically was signaling, if anyone don't know, Chicago is the center of the Big Ten universe. It's where the headquarters is, where they have a lot of the meetings at. It has very little to do with Northwestern. It's just where their power base is, where a lot of people they do business with also have headquarters. So if you're looking to get in there and get to know all the folks that do business with the Big Ten and get a lay of the land, and you have a booster crew that's probably already been there doing some of the groundwork for you, I mean, and that's the one place where he decided to take a picture and show it.
Is there any messaging going on here, Moan?
Yes. Alford has balls. That's what it is.
Buckshot Kid's late to the party, but he's here. He says, I know I'm late, but I'm here. Good to see you, Buckshot. All right, so let's stay on the Florida State bus and let's talk about Ashley Moody. Who wants to briefly cover the Ashley Moody news?
Go ahead, Immaculate.
Oh, okay. Well, what happened was she's basically suing over sovereign immunity.
Yeah, who is she? Tell everybody who she is.
She is the state of Florida Attorney General. So she's kind of powerful. Her office is in Tallahassee. So pretty easy. We were just talking about people meeting for lunch and talking over things. Pretty safe to say that she is, at some point in time, has had discussions in person with people at Florida State. What happened with Florida State in their own case is it got a setback, a timing setback. And then people often compare the two in North Carolina and Florida as being in a race to the finish. So if Florida State got set back and then immediately you see the AG coming in and suing the ACC, kind of seems like hopefully we're pushing for a settlement. Like I said, I don't know what else pushes you to a settlement than the idea of an AG poking around and looking to see if there's any fraudulent behavior going on with this, because that could real quick turn into a criminal case. Not that I think it will, but it could. So she's suing to maintain sovereign immunity for Florida State, that this case has to happen in the state of Florida. I don't know if that could cause the North Carolina case to go away completely, but it's safe to say that this whole situation has ramped up considerably with this lawsuit.
I'm going to post the link so everybody can get to that again. I posted a little bit ago, but we were kind of out of sync. So let me get that up here really quick. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think that the hill that the Florida State AG Moody is trying to die on now is really this public records request. So it's become very obvious and clear that Florida State is their lawsuit strategy is to get the ESPN agreement with the ACC out in the public. That's 100% the strategy. Any way, shape, or form, or threaten that to get it to leverage that. But that is the play. That is the thing right here. That needs to be a public document that we can talk about on the show, that everyone can talk about and criticize and discuss and everything, because that's just going to bring the cat out of the bag, guys. And also it's going to reveal ESPN's trade secrets. Well, they claim they're trade secrets. It's basically just extension language. It's kind of crazy, I think, but still. That's really the FSU legal strategy in a lot of ways, at least to try to get to the settlement table. So she's putting all of the pressure on the ACC to provide that documentation and that agreement in place. So she's going to do everything she can do to get it. And it's going to be an absolute battle. I mean, we're not even talking, we're talking right now about the ACC agreement. Like this most recent lawsuit coming up is about the providing the public records for the ACC agreement. That's just one aspect of this, one of like 10 aspects of this, but it's probably the biggest in my opinion, because that's what everyone's trying to hide. And if the cat comes out of the bag, is there going to be language in there that screws you? If you're the ACC and ESPN, likely so. Why are they trying to hide it so much? So it's a huge deal, something to pay attention to. And how long can this go on? And what else can they do? I mean, it's wild stuff right here with this public records request. And this lawsuit just came to the table.
You want to add anything to that, Moen?
Yeah, Ashley Moody's a political creature. She's probably going to run for governor in Florida next term. So there's definitely a political bend to this, where she is trying to court voters, especially in the Panhandle, Tallahassee region. And one of the best ways to do that is fighting for Florida State. So, but I agree with Immaculate. I think this is more about getting them to the mediation phase and coming to some sort of settlement. The last thing ESPN or the ACC wants is that document coming. The last thing ESPN wants is that document coming out.
Yeah.
And if they have to lean on the ACC and say, hey, look, 2027, if that document comes out, we ain't doing anything. That might be enough to get them to the table and just come up with a figure where Florida State and Clemson and whoever else can go at a set rate.
I would just add to that, and you guys all got it covered. The only thing that stood out to me that was different or hadn't been mentioned yet was the fact that through all the lawsuits that they've done, this is the third time they've asked for this media deal to be revealed. They asked in North Carolina, they asked previously in Florida, and now they're asking again at the state level. It started with a request in October, I believe, or November. It was just a simple, hey, you work with us, could we just get this from you? And of course they were ignored. So yeah, that it's just pretty crazy that it's finally come this far, and yet they still continue to be, they're literally telling everyone no. I mean, they've even told judges no.
Mm-hmm.
That blows me away.
How long can they hold out, or what kind of what happens next, guys, with this? I feel like this Moody case, this public records request, is actually huge. I see it as a really big deal because it's the crux of everything. That documents the foundation of everything. And if there's language in that is a get out of free essentially because of improper language, then the ACC is screwed. And so what's the play for the ACC and ESPN in the background now?
Well,
Yeah,
we know in the court case, the FSU lawyer made comment, which was interesting, maybe a bit out of line, but he said it, and he said that there were already had settlement talks, and the other lawyer kind of objected a little bit to that being brought up, didn't really want to admit to it. The judge kind of set terms in which that could even be spoken about, and so we know that there's already been settlement talks, and that what that basically makes what's going on is an extended element to the settlement talks. It's if they couldn't come to an agreement, everything going on right now is positioning for that agreement, for strength. And this one right here, that's why I say this might be the biggest move to actually pushing that and making people say, accept what they might have to do in that settlement, right? Like you're fighting. I think they're also buying time. I think there's some other things going on in other locations that might be connected, and they need time. They need time for that to work itself out, for other parties to figure out what they're doing. So I just think that they're buying time because these settlement talks have been going on for a while, which means they know that's where it's eventually going to end. So why not just get done with it and move on with it? And like you're saying, they're turning on judges. So I think for some reason or another, and that's debatable, arguable, whatever, they are very much interested in buying time.
What do you think about this statement from Chad Bracey? By the way, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We're a half hour in. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment or a question. We try to respond to those. If we don't give you a message back, we do take those ideas and use them in future shows. So we encourage you to do that. Obviously, giving us a thumbs up and a like really, really helps with the YouTube computers. And then last but not least is consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia family. We refer to the membership comments after regular comments, so they get a preference as we read those. And then, of course, all super chats we read no matter what. So, Chad Bracey, let's just get to this question here. He's got a comment. ACC won't let this document out, even if it meant letting FSU and Clemson walk. Do you think it's that bad?
You could certainly argue it is. If they're fighting so hard to not show it, then you would think that there must be something there that they definitely don't want to be seen. If it was not a big deal, then they probably wouldn't have been fighting to the point now where they have an actual attorney general from a state suing you.
Right.
Because when a private entity, Florida State's still kind of more like a private entity. When they sue you, it's just civil. Like, that's it. When an AG sues you, if they turn up something that, could be criminal, there is nothing to stop them from filing charges. That's the threat. It isn't so much that, whatever. If there's some fraudulent stuff in there, like we're talking, the Raycom deals, things, who knows?
Right.
The last person you want to see that is the Florida State AG. So that's what I've been saying. If this doesn't do it, if this doesn't cause it to happen, I don't think there is anything. Like, this is just going to go on until who knows how long. It could go on for a while. But if something's going to cause them to finally come and finish up settlement talks that have been happening in the past, I think this is it.
You?
Yeah, as Moan mentioned, the behind the scenes ESPN is the one that's really putting all the driver and all the leverage with all this stuff. And so ESPN has more to lose than the ACC if this agreement comes out. ESPN's the one concerned about this. The ACC, of course, is going to fall apart anyway. So the ACC has a little on the line, but ESPN has a lot on the line because it gives away their trade, what they call their trade secrets. That's how they do business. That's how they structure strategically, business-wise contracts. And so this opening this one up, if we all get access to that and we talk about it, we examine it, then that's going to show you exactly probably what the Big 12 and the SEC has and all the rest of their contracts that are in play. And it also might give outs for other teams in different conferences too, and blow up the notion of what a grant of rights is. And all of a sudden, your investment as ESPN that you put into the conference is at risk because you could lose teams and stuff, and you don't have financial certainty into the future with what a conference makeup could look like. So it's a financial risk for ESPN. So yeah, it's a big deal for ESPN to try to protect this thing.
Moen, you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, just think about this. You've got 2 sets of lawyers poring over this document right now. Imagine when this goes nationwide. Imagine every lawyer in America having this. Imagine all the loopholes that they find that the other lawyers miss.
Right.
That would be catastrophic to the ACC and ESPN. Their best bet is to negotiate a number and let them go. Negotiate and let them walk. Live to fight another day, because you can't fight the attorney. I mean, you can fight the Attorney General of Florida, but you're probably not going to win.
You guys want to hear the real bad news that nobody's talking about?
What's that?
If you capitulate because of the Attorney General pressure, once Florida State and Clemson are out, why doesn't somebody else play the same card with your Attorney General?
Right.
You just showed the roadmap.
Yeah.
Like, and so you're really screwed no matter how you look at it.
She is using the Sunshine Statute in Florida, so you have to be in a state that has a Sunshine Statute.
But once it's exposed in Florida, it can be used in another state.
If it's exposed, absolutely. For sure.
So,
but like even if it's not exposed, I mean,
yeah,
you can
they'll get it.
You could try to manipulate the process by political pressure and state. And there's the roadmap right there that Florida's playing. And this gets so political, as we all know. But still, I mean, once Florida State and Clemson are out, no one's going to want to stay in the ACC, guys. Who wants to stay in the ACC? I mean, like, what kind of exposure you're going to get in football season when you've got a Duke and North Carolina football game instead of a basketball game? Like, it's going to be real bad.
Have you guys noticed the messaging coming out of North Carolina that they can run with the ACC and the value won't go down even after losing Florida State and Clemson, and they'll be able to anchor the conference and keep its value? We're seeing that messaging now out in the world, coming through ESPN, coming through 247 Sports. Leaks are going out. They're trying to push a message saying North Carolina is really the jewel. It's not Florida State and Clemson. So they are trying to push back against the narrative. I definitely think that they want to make that work. Here's a comment from Illini Ted. It says, how coordinated was the lawsuit by the Florida AG with the Florida State attorneys? It seemed like she jumped on as soon as the judge called the continuance. Yeah, what do we think about the timing?
I mean, there's a chance that it's coincidence, but when you consider that her office and their offices are all in the same town and they've all got relationships with each other and they've been talking with each other, and even hopefully this doesn't set people off, but the governor gave them like $1 million for their legal fees. Like they're intertwined. When you look at the timing, I just find it extremely hard to believe that it wasn't timed. Like, this was probably something that they did not want to do. Like, as much as it might help her politically or not, it's also going to give people ammunition against her. Like, oh, there's so much other stuff you should be doing other than this, because there are Florida fans in the state of Florida too, and they probably would like to see FSU get stuck too. So when they see state politicians kind of favoring them, there might be a few people who aren't happy. But this definitely feels like they didn't have a choice at this point in time. Like, they saw the Florida case falling behind the North Carolina case, and so she stepped in.
It stands to reason to me too. The state can basically have a lawsuit that goes years, and you don't worry about the budget. It's not a private entity that has to come up with money for a lawsuit. It's a state suing for something, and they have deep pockets. They can go and go and go.
Yeah, that's their entire budget, is to do stuff like that. It's
exactly.
It's about saying this is how we're going to spend our time. And it's probably not hard to tell people in the state of Florida that you should be spending your time protecting, the University of Florida State. There's some people who might be against it, but it's kind of hard to argue to protect.
It all depends. It all depends on how they spin it, Immaculate, because she's doing it to protect all universities within the state of Florida that are public universities.
Yeah, and that's a political thing you do. And I'm not taking a side in this at all. I'm just saying, generally speaking, of all the different things that the AG will, push forward and go after, this is probably one of the easier ones to sell to people, to get people. Most stuff that they do, you wouldn't even know about. So if they don't do some of that, you still wouldn't know that they chose not to do it. So it's a pretty easy choice for them to allocate their budget towards this, and that's all their budget's for, is for cases.
Right.
You have this Cheshire cat grin on your face. What are you holding on to?
I'm not holding on to anything. I think this is really amusing to see like all of the tentacles that are going out. You get the political, the financial tentacles with this whole saga of the ACC. It's absolutely bizarro, guys. Like, we're talking about Florida State battling on multiple lawsuit fronts, Clemson battling in South Carolina, the ACC in North Carolina battling, and there's going to be more coming down the line. There will be, no matter what happens. It's absolutely freaking nuts when you're just taking a step back and looking at this.
Yeah.
And the thing that made me chuckle, though, is like, I'm a finance guy. That's through and through how I think. And like, ACC lawyers are really high quality, good lawyers. I'm sure there's lots that are helping out with this case, and I'm sure they're getting paid like at least $2,000 an hour. I'm just wondering how many billable hours they've already put into the sucker right now. That's what's funny. It's like, how much are they paying now, and how much will they pay before this thing ends in funds? That's what I want to know.
I love that the Pac-12 imploded, and then like the ACC's like, season 2, hold my beer, watch.
It'll never happen to us. It'll never happen to us.
This
But,
is so much. I don't know.
A little
Maybe
twist
it's much
for
more
you.
enjoyable.
Here's a twist for you. The lawyer in the latest hearing for the ACC down in Florida, she's an FSU grad. So they literally hired a Florida State lawyer to argue their case against Florida State. And people are talking trash about Florida State lawyers. I'm like, your lawyer's from there, so you might just want to shush. So it's just been funny to watch people. The rationalizing going on online right now, it's just off the charts.
But then you've got like this North Carolina, like the court system there, and the judicial system, and like their own Supreme Court there, and like the main guy, it's Phil Berger guy, is from Wake Forest. You bring Wake Forest, this private institution that has incentive here. There's a million different ways to look at this thing. It's absolutely crazy. It really is.
The USC situation is connected to this too, and the Notre Dame just had a complaint on them for the NLRB as well. So that is now connected to the ACC. And so you've got a whole bunch of private schools that are sitting in the ACC going, wait, is that an angle on us too? So, I mean, they've got that on the back of their mind. It would be a stressful time to be an administrator in the ACC right now. I'll give them that amount of credit.
Let's get to this comment from King Spleen, one of our members. He says, the Florida AG's lawsuit also provided the language needed for FSU's amended complaint, which they were forced to do because of the ruling last Monday. The judge most likely will deny the ACC's motion to dismiss now. Anybody have any follow-up on that? Go ahead, Moen. Moen, you there?
I'm not going to play.
Winner!
I was going to play the Law and Order sound effect, but it didn't.
Oh, you should have.
The
That's a good one. How about that? You got to do the LA Law one. That one's better.
LA Law.
Yeah. That's a trip in the Wayback Machine. I love that show.
You can play some Suits music.
Suits is good too. Yeah, that's later. They're a copy, basically.
LA Law.
In terms of this, though, if I could real quick, I would say the way the judge laid out when he made his decision, it's not exactly as it sounds. He was basically holding the hand of the Florida State attorney saying, this is what you need to put in your amended complaint. It needs to have this and this and this and this. And because that's not in there, I am going to find in favor of the ACC, but without, what's that term? Not without malice, but without
prejudice.
Prejudice. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Without that, so they can come right back and file it again properly. He told them exactly what to put in there. And so he's signaling that, yes, as King Spleen is saying, when that one comes through, he's going to find it in favor because they're going to put in there exactly what he told them to put in there. Right. So it's the problem is the timeline, is it sets them back. It gives North Carolina a little bit more of a lead in all of this. So that's why I think the AG had to get involved, is because of the timeline, not because of the motion to dismiss would be fully upheld in the end. It's just timing.
The timing was suspect, for sure.
Oh God, it was as suspect as Clemson's lawsuit coming right after the CFP agreement. We'll say that. It was
that was an
similar amount of timing.
And we're still talking about venues here. This is the tailgate lot still in the saga. Like, let's be honest about it. We haven't even hit the ball game yet. We're all in the tailgate lot, and there's just punches being thrown in the freaking tailgate lot right now.
They've never had a hearing for anything beyond a motion. They haven't even gotten into any of the base arguments for the actual cases yet. It's just hearings on motions.
Where's the game going to be played? We're not even to the tailgate lot to even do that yet. We're actually at the house just drinking, trying to figure out if it's a home game and an away game. That's really where we're at in this thing, in a football terminology. That's what's bizarre about it. So more fireworks to come. It's awesome.
Let's get to this next comment. I just had it. Where did it go? Timothy Green says, in my opinion, college football nowadays has become more of a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Can't we just all get along?
We can all get along as soon as we win.
That's basically it. Basically it. What's going to take? So what's the next thing to happen? We got the Clemson ruling just came down. Was it yesterday? There was a Clemson lawsuit back.
There was something. I don't remember the details on.
Do you remember what that was?
The date was not going to be until July.
Right. It was the ACC suing Clemson back, I think, is what it was.
Yeah. I don't remember. But basically, the whole Clemson case is they're just sitting back. Like, we're here. We filed. We're suing them, but we're not in any kind of a hurry. Like that whole situation is going extremely slow compared to the North Carolina and Florida situations.
Yeah, seems very fair. Let's see. Let's get to another comment here. I'm glad everybody's involved tonight. We got some really good comments coming in. King Spleen again says the ACC acknowledged they were having settlement talks in their North Carolina filing against Clemson. They were mad Clemson tricked them. Do we know what that's about?
There we go.
Nice. Works.
I do remember something about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the ACC's counter to the Clemson complaint that Clemson was part of something. Basically, yeah. I mean, they're acting like it was, they didn't know it was coming, or that it was in bad faith, that Clemson had taken part in some other actions in bad faith. I don't remember the details, but I think he's right.
Do we think that North Carolina just sits on its hands? They're not going to do anything. They're going to wait.
They can't. The Board of Governors has them completely tied. Okay. And until the SEC and ESPN basically say okay to NC State, then nothing's going to happen. But if that moment happens, if ESPN is pressured by the AG of Florida to make a decision that they maybe wouldn't have wanted to make before, and they say, fine, we'll take North Carolina State, then you maybe have the UNC Board of Governors come in and sue the ACC. And that happens in their home state. So home cooking goes away.
Yeah, that seems right to me. Let's see here. Moner, you want to speak on that at all?
Well, yeah, UNC strategy is a lot different here. I mean, given the Board of Governors issue going on in the state, there's just a lot. There's not a lot they can do, but they know for a fact they're going to have a landing spot. So they're really not too concerned. They don't need to move. They don't need to make any moves. You're going to be fine in the end. They're just kind of waiting back and seeing how this thing falls apart. They're not in a rush to go anywhere. So they're just going to be taking a nap here And then like once the state wakes up, they'll jump to one of the P2. That's really the play.
I can't believe how passive they're being. It does surprise me. I would have thought they would have been on their front foot a little bit more, but we have a new member. TF Williams is a new member in the house. Good to have you here, TF.
Winner.
So really quick, let me go to our website and show everybody what access TF has just bought him. Give me a second. Let me bring that up. We now have how many members are we sitting on now, Moen? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I think it's 160 something. I have to go in and look.
Winner.
Actually, let him cook.
Sorry, my laptop's lagging out, guys. Sorry about that.
Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Let it cook. You did. I'm trying to bring up. Well, I can't bring up the screen. If you're a new member or new, I want my computer back. This is pissing me off.
Listen, guys, if you're a new member,
No, and tell everybody what members get. I'm sorry.
Go to the homepage, the top row. You're going to see all the members-only videos. That includes Wild Ute University, where we go over the numbers, or Ute goes over the numbers. He's the dean. The numbers and facts and figures and financials of how schools fit into other conferences. You've got Timeline, which I just released this Thursday. That's an alternative history of college football, where we take a look at an inflection point in college football history and see what might have been a what-if scenario. And then we also have Moen Rants on there, where I get drunk and just rant. So people seem to really enjoy it. The Moen Rants are not safe for work. The other ones are totally safe for work. So, but yeah, TF Williams, after the show tonight, definitely go over there, check out those videos, see what you think. Leave us a comment, give us some feedback. We always appreciate feedback.
Absolutely.
I apologize for my computer, guys. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
That happens, man.
You were just going to say something, Immaculate. Go ahead. I didn't mean
I was just going to say those drunken Moen rants are probably not safe for anything. Say not safe for work. I'm saying you might not want to have those like anywhere where there's anyone else around when that thing's popping off.
Right. That's probably true.
Good stuff, though.
Rob, let's see. Rob Ellen, new to the show. Good to have you, Rob. He's a Clemson Tiger. Mm-hmm. So we're glad that we've got a few Clemson Tigers lurking around in the forest here. We love to see you. South Carolina AG Alan Wilson, who's a South Carolina law grad, has to join too, right? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I don't know what the laws are. What are the laws in South Carolina? Do they have sunshine laws?
That's a good question.
And you don't necessarily need that if you're trying to say that your schools have sovereign immunity. And right. I think what we're talking about is the Florida AG sent letters to, let me get this right, the AGs of South Carolina, California, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Kentucky, basically every state where there is a state university or university gets state funding in the ACC. So you notice there's a couple missing on it because of that. But I don't think they necessarily need to have all the same laws. It would basically just be maybe even just filing an amicus brief in support of what she's doing, saying, yes, we believe sovereign immunity does play a part here. And that led some weight to this, saying, oh, we really don't want this to go any bigger. So you know that she sent those out, and you know that she's filed now. And if you're ESPN and ACC, do you want to wait to see those come back? Those AGs probably aren't going to reply immediately. They're political animals too. They're going to weigh the situation. But the threat is looming now that they could come in and file something in support.
Rob, since you're new to the show, if you want to come on and talk about Clemson, we'd love to have a Clemson person come on the show. We've had a dearth of people trying or willing to join us on the show and tell us what thinking is going on in South Carolina. I'm going to post a link for you to join if you want to. I know this is sudden and you've never been here before, but if you want to join the show and tell us a little bit about what's going on in Clemson, I would really appreciate that. And I think that the guys would love to talk to you. So there's the link. I just posted in the comment section. Click on it and join the show, and let's talk Clemson a little bit. If you don't want to, that's cool too. But I just figured since we don't get a lot of Clemson people on, it would be nice to get some people's thinking about kind of what's going on there. So you're invited to do that.
Could I request that you bring up Daniel Gygax's comment that he just made? I started. It's at the very bottom.
Find it. Oh, yeah, I see it. You bet. Absolutely. There you go.
I made a bit of a goof. I pointed out early on, it was like that the North Carolina AG wasn't a part of the request. And like, what does this mean? Kind of figured it out, worked it out in my head, and pretty sure it's because this is talking about sovereign immunity and, happening in their home states and not in the state of North Carolina where that case is being held. Well, if you're a North Carolina university, that is your home state. So you're not really a part of any type of a sovereign immunity against this to try to not have it happen in North Carolina. So kind of reasoning out later, that's probably why the North Carolina AG was not reached out to in this, not any other kind of confrontational conflict type of a situation. Is just their brief of support really doesn't help. Like, their sovereign immunity is within the same state in which that case has taken place. So yeah, she just didn't send one to them.
Let's get a couple more shout outs for people that are late arrivers. Shonsky is another one of our members, says hi everyone from the Nashville airport. And then Expedition Greg came in and said, hey everyone, good to see you guys. Appreciate you being here.
Looks like it's Fly Eagles Fly for me.
Rob says, copy, thank you, Clemson grad, but I'm in Stadville, Corvallis right now.
Yeah, that's gonna be rough in Corvallis right now. We love you, Beavers. I know you're angry, but
we love the Beavers here, definitely. Let's see here. TF Williams is a new member. You guys see that? Look at that. TF Williams giving us his comment. Great to have you here, TF Williams. The Rams just drafted 2 FSU defensive linemen this draft.
There we go.
All right. What do we got here, Moen? What's this?
I'm muted.
You're on mute, Moen.
I know. Chill out. I gifted 5 subs to the channel. Chad Bracey, K-State Scott, Florida. K-State Scott, you will like that timeline video. Watch that if you're a K-State fan. Seminole School, Brother Muzone, and Michael Morse were all gifted memberships by yours truly. I hope you guys enjoy them. Like I said, after the show, run over there to the members only section, go to the homepage. You'll see the videos at the top. The video you want to watch is timeline, especially if you're a K-State fan. Very interesting what I did with K-State.
Thank you, Moen. And I appreciate everybody who's been here. The people that are sticking around and our new members, Chad Bracey, K-State Scott, Seminole School, Brother Muzzoni, and Michael Morris. Good to have all of you as new members. Do go over and watch those videos once the show's over and let us know how we did and if there's anything we need to adjust or do better. We like getting all that feedback, believe me. Let's see here.
We also need to throw out a new poll here for members to see really what the new Wild University analysis is.
Do that right now.
I think after what you did to North Carolina State on the last show, it has to be North Carolina State. Because I'm going to go
for the Big 12. You think the North Carolina State to the Big 12?
I want you to actually do the numbers for North Carolina State. I want to see them.
Because we don't believe you, Ute. We don't believe you.
Hey, I know I'm a man on an island with my views over here, so it's all good.
Immaculate, did you see what he said? Did you happen to catch that show on Tuesday?
No. I mean, I was thinking maybe you meant the backpack, but we're talking something else. What did he say?
We're talking about the backpack.
Talking about the backpack.
Well, explain it. You tell them what we're talking about.
We're just talking about how North Carolina State is a great school. We love the Wolfpack. I really do. I've got a bunch of Wolfpack friends.
Setting it up.
And the reality is there just aren't other level to qualify for the Power 2. And borderline level to qualify for the Big 12. We'll find out more after all the analysis is done and the video's out.
You know what? You might be right, and that might be why the Board of Governors went to such an extreme length to get them in, because maybe they know the numbers that you know is that on their own they're not going to make it, and so they've tried to pull like a major fast one in order to get them in. Because I'm sure your numbers are right on.
That was the
So
point on
I
Tuesday.
need to amend what I was saying.
That didn't sit very well.
Oh, I'm sure it didn't.
This is
I'm
the
sure there's
thing.
people who are like, hell no. But I mean, I think that if they could make it on their own, or if they were going to make it on their own, the BOG wouldn't have did that. I think that lines up with what you're saying. But
So
that their maneuvers. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, I was just going to say, I want to amend what I was saying about we don't believe you. When you said that, I was thinking of something else. The thing that I disagree with is Moen thinks that North Carolina and North Carolina State are married, and they're going to come along for sure. And I said I don't. That's hard for me to see. So that's what I meant. I just wanted to clear that up.
I kind of stand with Moen. But I agree that the numbers mean that they had to be married by the Board of Governors, because I don't think the SEC would have did that on their own. I think that's the way it's looking, because they wouldn't have did it if it wasn't necessary.
North Carolina State's in trouble unless UNC starts rattling the cage.
You're probably right.
If UNC is just going to sit back and take a little nappy nap and just let destruction come, like they're doing right now, then like North Carolina State loses leverage daily. They need UNC to be with them to rattle that cage, rattle.
I think North Carolina State's best ally right now is the Florida AG. Not
the Florida. Direct. Why you think they want? You think North Carolina State wants them to win?
Because it's pushing the ACC to make a decision. It's pushing ESPN to make a decision sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like, I'm not saying directly like they're working together. I just mean it just so happens what she's doing probably benefits them.
So time is on the Tar Heel side. Like a long time, right? So if it stretches out,
the more likely
they can break away by themselves. But if it happens quicker, then they're both probably lumped together.
100%.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, guys.
It's a wild idea. I get it. Until
I want this thing to go to the end. I want this thing to go 4 years of destruction.
Oh God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of it. I'm ready.
I love it.
There's a lot more to come after this. It's not like the ACC is the final moment.
No, I know.
Like it's just one more step. That's it.
I don't have the costume budget for 4 years, Nathan, so.
I want to.
But up in the community section right now, members only poll on the Wild Ute University. So we'll let the members decide.
North Carolina State. You're going to
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight.
Don't choose North Carolina State.
Sorry, Nathan.
If you're a new member, we appreciate you being here. I want you to know that if you've been given a gift membership, make sure you thank whoever gave it to you. In this case, it was Moen. And then on top of that, consider paying it forward and giving somebody else a membership. That's how we do things around here. If you get one, you help somebody else get one. We want to share those messages in those Wild University Moen rants, Coos Corner videos, and really want to share those things out. The best way to do that is to give gift memberships. You'll feel good, and at the end of the day, you'll be sharing a little bit of knowledge. We really appreciate people doing that. Dan Miter, good to have you here, Dan, who's a member, says, so many offensive players taken in the first round. Cooper DeJean is going to be a steal for someone. Just happened for the Eagles.
Yep, Eagles picked him up.
Is that right?
That's what I was saying. I'm going to have to be doing the Fly Eagles Fly song.
Okay.
I think it's good for him. I think, going down to the second round, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He probably still has some things to get over with his injury. So that takes quite a bit of will to really push through that. He had a really bad leg injury. I think that's why he dropped. So he's going to the Eagles, and that's a good team to be on. I mean, they're already competitive and going forward. So to put him in there and put him on the back, there's a lot that he brings to the table for them, both on special teams and on defense.
So let's talk Eagles. I think the Eagles are not. I think Jalen Hurts, they figured him out.
Maybe.
I just
I mean,
don't. I
that,
just
that
don't
tends
see
to
him-
happen. But I
Yeah.
tend to go with him just on his. He's a character guy. No, with quarterbacks in the league, what you have to do is you have to change up. You have
Right.
to, and I do think that he is an intelligent guy, and I do think that he is capable of doing that. That's on him, though. That's on them. I do think they have a good coaching staff to work with him on that. So, I would still put them up in the chances to be in the running, both to win their division and to be in the playoffs still.
We'll have to see what happens with San Francisco this year. I'm not
Always.
sure where they're going to go.
They're going to be good. They will be very good.
I think they'll be good. I don't know about very good. I think they'll be good. We'll have to see. Rock Chalk says he's in a previous comment. He's replying, "Me too, honestly. Just have Pitt, North Carolina State, Louisville, and Virginia Tech join the Big 12 already. People are getting frustrated. I think that's what that comment is showing.
Make it happen.
Knowing off of what we've just spoken about with North Carolina State being married to North Carolina, what do we think now about these four being the schools that go to the Big 12?
It would.
Still, yeah, I'll jump in there. It's
Yeah, go ahead.
it's still likely, actually. These four were like the intuitive, natural fits that everyone in the Big 12 lands like, yes, this makes sense to add these four. Like these were like the easiest to like plug in because they add something new markets, rivalries, and everything. So this was the go-to play without really digging into anything because it just made sense. If you look at the numbers, and that matters actually, if it like intuitively, if it just fits, that's a huge part of this too. But like the numbers actually say that two of these candidates are a lot stronger than the other two candidates. So two of the four candidates that are listed right here are the ones that you'll really want to focus on and hone on and consider based on the objective numbers here. And those two candidates are Louisville and Pitt. Surprisingly.
Yeah, that is.
Louisville, number
Louisville's
one,
not
and
so
number
much
two.
shocking, but Pitt
And the
kind
reason
of is.
for that is the focus of the Big 12 from a Big 12 standpoint, really on rivalries and how important rivalries are. You're adding new markets and you're adding big time rivalries and you're adding pretty good football viewership too. And like, especially for Backyard Brawl game, which basically brings in like its own entity in football viewership. And so Pitt and Louisville, honestly, outside of Miami, if Miami's off the board, those have to be the top two targets for the Big 12, in my opinion.
Followed by Syracuse.
Syracuse is still TBD.
Well, I don't know. We talked about Syracuse as possibly being a secret ad because of their TV region, but I want to see the stats on that before.
I haven't even done the analysis on Syracuse yet.
We'll have to see.
All of it.
It's in the poll if anybody wants to vote on it. I know nobody will vote on it, though. I put it in the poll like 4 times now.
Well, that's the problem right there. If people won't even vote on the poll, it kind of speaks to the quality of their brand.
Immaculate, what do you think about that?
I mean, if the Big 12 was to get that foursome, I would say that's a win. Not just any win. I would say at least on par with the quad that came from the West. In terms of just straight brands, maybe a slight step below. But when you talk about Eastern markets and Eastern time and having that, I would say that would be a huge win. Is that going to be what happens? I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. So it's definitely possible. We just need to start to see some things start to actually play out and happen. So definitely possible. And if it happens, then that is a huge win for the Big 12.
We're an hour in. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight on a day 2 Friday night of the NFL draft. We appreciate everybody's taking the time to spend some time with us on this Friday evening. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Turn on your notifications and consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia Network family. Chad Bracey right here, new member, says, I'm an FSU grad but live in Greenville, South Carolina, Clemson land. Most Clemson fans openly say they just want out but would prefer the SEC. I am all in on FSU to the big, and I think most FSU graduates I've talked to now, while they originally were leaning SEC, definitely are looking at the Big Ten, especially after what happened last year with them being frozen out of the CFP. What do you guys think about this?
Well, there's still a very loud and obstinate, vocal group of people who still want to go to the SEC for Florida State. But I think what you're looking at here is the difference in how the two schools have been treated by the whole system right now with Clemson and how many times they've gone. It's worked out wonderful for them. They have no reason to be upset with ESPN. They have no reason to be upset with the SEC. Their value now that has been rated by the CFP is high enough to where someone looked at them and said, okay, go ahead. So they know, I mean, that's a perfect place for them to be in the SEC. I know some folks want them in the Big Ten, and if them and Florida State was to join the Big Ten, that's a huge upgrade for football. But it's that's what it would be all about. And I tend to think Clemson fans are a little bit more regionalized, where Florida State seems to look at themselves more as a national brand. They're a little more spread out. I mean, you looked at it. They have their alumni groups all across the country. They just seem to want to be a little bit more of a national brand. So I think that split really makes a lot of sense. We'll see how it goes, but I kind of feel bad for Chad on those weekends where Florida State's playing Clemson at home there. That might be pretty tough to be a Florida State guy in that town.
Moen?
Yeah, I agree. It would be tough to be a Florida State guy in that town. It reminds me of, I saw a Michigan flag hanging out somebody's window today on the way to the grocery store.
Yeah, you probably had thoughts. You probably had thoughts.
I thought about stopping and having a conversation with them, but I didn't.
Right.
Hey,
how you doing? Nice flag.
Yeah, nice flag. But yeah, I still think Clemson fits the SEC better than any team in the ACC. That is an SEC school. The stadium, the traditions. It's an SEC fits. It fits the SEC like a glove. So.
Yep. Small town, kind of, right down there in the heart of the South. It's probably a little bit easier to get to locally for closer schools than it is to come in. Whereas Florida, most of the Big Ten are already vacations there. So it's kind of part of Northern culture, even if it's in the South.
What's confusing about Clemson to the SEC is you're already in the market. There's no value add for the SEC in getting the town of Clemson, South Carolina, when you're already have a strong hold in Atlanta and you've got the South Carolina Gamecocks. Nobody can ever mitigate that, guys. What we know about the SEC is they care about new markets too. And so you're not getting anything in that regard. You own that market. So you're really saying Clemson is an SEC ad because of football history and eyeballs. That's it. That is it. Seriously.
I think it's the valuation
football
from the
eyeballs
CFP.
brand.
Like, it's going to bring, when they do when they look at the numbers all over again in 2028, they were valued so high in that valuation for the CFP that I think that you were right. Like the SEC's looking at going, there's just not quite enough there. And then that valuation happened with the CFP, and then Clemson is able to file. I think that was enough, just enough to push them over for the SEC, because you're going to have great rivalries. That's a great stadium to have big teams come in and play. Like, instead of having all these ACC matchups in there, you're not going to have Georgia come in there. You're going to have South Carolina come in there. You're going to have Tennessee come in there, Florida come in there, Alabama. Like, all these big SEC teams coming into that stadium. That stadium is valuable. Like,
it is.
Like the fans, the atmosphere, everything about it. That stadium, that atmosphere is valuable, and that's what I think is where it is.
This is one of the situations where, like, intuitively SEC is like, yeah, it's a fit, and I'm 100% with you guys. But then, like, value add though, like when you're looking at it from the SEC standpoint, only the SEC standpoint, like, okay, so even if Clemson lifts the college football playoff payouts for the current contract cycle, that's a temporary amount of time. These are 50-year decisions, not 5-7-year decisions. So, I mean, that might be nice little 7-year bump for a couple $1 million per year divided, amongst your teams. But like, you got to think about over like the 20, 50-year time horizon. Does that still make sense for the SEC to do? Or else would it be more advantageous to go pull the Virginia Cavaliers and get into DC? That's what I'm saying. Like, so I see like it's a fit because like you're right there. Like Clemson's a southern town and everything. I've been to that stadium before. I know that area and stuff. It's definitely SEC feel. But I think that Clemson actually adds more value to the Big Ten. And so I think the Big Ten would be interested in Clemson more than the SEC would be interested in Clemson, because in the Big Ten, you're adding a new market and you're adding a travel partner in addition to the eyeballs and the brand of the football. So there's more that they bring to the Big Ten than the SEC. So I'm not even sure if I'm a decision maker at the SEC, because I already own that market, they're not as high on the list as in North Carolina. And like Virginia is not a great brand, but still that new market and that new territory and the students from DC and everything and that linkage, I'd be very interested in that. And I'd have a hard time in adding a school in my footprint that I already own.
Yeah.
That's the thinking about Clemson here. That's why I think Clemson actually ends up in the Big Ten.
So let's talk about a couple of other things that we haven't talked about as separators. One other thing for the Big Ten, obviously, AAU is important. It's not exclusive.
Nope.
They've declared and said outright you don't have to have it, but
If you
they
did,
certainly
Nebraska
care
would
about it because the rumblings with Nebraska came up out of nowhere, right? And so they are still looking at that. Both Florida State, who I believe is an R2 right now, and I don't even know where Clemson is on the AAU scale. They would be wavered.
They're
right?
not really even a candidate, as far as I know. They're not even really pushing for it.
So the Big Ten would have to be bringing them in, with sort of a, I don't want to say waiver. That's not the right word, but an exception, right?
Right. Yeah,
Moen, what do you think about that?
Right there.
Yeah, Clemson is an SEC school. I understand where Utes coming from, but the academics, the brand, the culture, it's an SEC school. I get it. Yes, they have the South Carolina Gamecocks, but what have the South Carolina Gamecocks done since they joined the SEC? Have they even won a conference championship? Clemson comes in right away and competes. National brand. You can establish new rivalries with Georgia and Clemson. There's so many potential rivalries you can establish.
Clemson,
with
LSU,
them.
Battle of the Tigers.
Battle of the Tiger, Battle of Death Valley.
Auburn, Clemson.
Yeah. So, I think Clemson, it's such an SEC. If you were going to design an SEC school, it would be Clemson.
It is, but does the SEC want to expand? By the way, Tony Lawson says Clemson Stadium is 81.5. That's nothing that's nothing to shake at, for sure.
Oh, it is a fantastic place, and they put on one hell of a show there.
I just don't know the SEC wants to expand at all.
I don't think they did, and in fact, they tried to get ESPN to pay for a 9th game all on its own,
right?
And ESPN said no. So to me, that smells like maybe ESPN wants to tie that in with expansion to get the SEC to take maybe what they don't necessarily want to take. And the SEC is like, no, why don't you just pay us for the games and what we currently have? I agree. Like, I don't necessarily think the SEC is gung-ho about expansion. But if that's what they have to do to get the more money, to get increases, because it's not just about the value of Clemson. It's not just about the value of North Carolina State. It's not just about these values. If that's the only way ESPN is going to pay them to move to 9 or 10 games, then that's part of the valuation too. So it's kind of have the whole picture.
Let's see here. Daniel Gygax's comment says, why UVA and not adding Virginia Tech to the SEC? So it was Moen that said, Wolfpack backpack, North Carolina State. Daniel Gygax is asking, why not Virginia and Virginia Tech?
Because it's the Cavalier souvenir. Virginia is the more prestigious school. They're the old money. They have the access to the political power in Washington, D.C. Virginia Tech doesn't have that. I understand that Virginia Tech has a decent football program now. They used to be good. They used to be really good. They used to be national championship level good, but they haven't been that in over 20 years. So I'm not saying that UVA is by any way a fantastic football team either, but the school, the prestige, I think the SEC would be all over it. I think the Big Ten would be all over it too if they didn't have other things to think of first.
See, I'm actually in disagreement. I'm with Daniel here, and let me explain why. Because everything you said is right about why they would like Virginia, but why they might like Virginia Tech more is because of what you would need out of a supplemental ad like this. Because neither one of those is being taken as like, we want this one. It's more about filling out, like if you're trying to get to 20 for scheduling and maybe for future reasons. At least with Virginia Tech, if, say, you've got a team that's in the hunt for the championship and the networks want to put them on as much as possible, and so let's say it's Alabama. Now, if you having them scheduled at Virginia Tech or at Virginia, which one of those two locations do you think is more valuable to the network in terms of what's going to be on TV for the viewer? What atmosphere? What
I think
location?
Virginia Tech. Yeah,
Virginia Tech.
Case.
And that's not to belittle all the rest. Like, that's all good. Like, just to kind of provide the counterpoint to go along with what Daniel is asking is why they might look at Virginia Tech instead of Virginia is because you don't need either one of those to be a big time team. In fact, you might want them to lose, but you still want that game to come across great on TV because you're trying to get a network to pay for that. And if they know they have to put on each team maybe twice a year as per the contract, what it says, I think ESPN would look at that and say, we're more comfortable putting SEC games at Virginia Tech than at Virginia, because if you've ever seen a game of Virginia, man, it's not an exciting situation. It's half filled for all the positives and bonuses they have, and they have tried. They just can't really seem to get people interested. So that would be my counterpoint. People can think what they want on it, but I'm actually leaning at either Virginia Tech or Kansas as my fourth pick for the SEC after North Carolina State, and Clemson.
Do you want to say something about that? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Immaculate has a really good point. He does. I think that you talk about what kind of like multipliers in football that Virginia and Virginia Tech could bring. That's essentially what you're saying. More eyeballs would be on Virginia Tech over Virginia. Right now, today, I mean, the brands are down so much that their viewership's been paltry over the last 3-4 years for both schools. But I think that Virginia Tech is higher upside based on its history. All that said, when you wash everything out, you look at the academic and the elite profile, UVA, the basketball history, the championship, the UVA has in basketball fairly recently. Virginia Tech's never won a national championship in anything, guys. I'm serious. That's not a joke.
Nope.
K-State and Virginia Tech are the only two schools that have never won a national championship. And so I think that UVA is probably the nod based on prestige. Moan said.
We got a super chat here from Kerry Go Knowles. Good to see you, Kerry. Glad you're here tonight. Appreciate you giving us some time on your Friday evening. He says, or Kerry, sorry, says 3 Knowles taken in the first 37 picks. That's pretty good for
whoop whoop.
For the first two rounds of the draft, right?
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said, let him cook.
I love it.
It's a good news, bad news situation because you're losing great players off your college football team. Ohio State, I think, only has one person picked so far, and that's because they brought so many people back. So I'm kind of happy that there's not so many Ohio State players going in the draft this year.
We'll have to see how the draft shakes out at the end, but starting off with 3 in the first 2 rounds, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not record-breaking or anything, but it's pretty good. Let's see here. Get to some more of our comments. Dan Miter, one of our members, says satellite dish is out because of bad weather. Thought I would join the chat. Hope I didn't miss an offensive or offensive Iowa player get drafted. Will that ever happen, Immaculate?
Yeah.
Iowa's, who?
Kerry
I mean-
Kittle, right?
A tackle.
Like, how many tight ends are in
That's
the
true.
NFL from, I mean, do you want me to point out someone on the team right now? I'm like, I would probably guess a tight end, maybe.
Okay. All
But
right.
I mean, there's some rumors right now that there's a different quarterback from Ohio State now looking to maybe come to Iowa. So, and that guy was highly ranked as a recruit. So maybe him. They're bringing up a speedster from Missouri State, I think, that's coming in. So if we have ourselves a couple of good receivers, because we got one, once again, was from Ohio State. We're becoming a little Ohio State over here in Iowa.
You're like a farm team.
It's like, you don't want him? Yeah, we got him. We'll take him.
Uh,
But yeah, we're gonna have to see this year. It's a brand new offense. Don't really know where it's even going to be focused. But they're trying to bring in some weapons, so good for them.
C. John, good to have you here, C. John. It's been a minute since we've seen you. It says, howdy, fellas. FGIF, something it's Friday. What's FGIF?
Feel good.
I think that's a typo.
Oh, okay. FGIF, Georgia Tech.
TGIF,
Georgia
yeah.
Tech. Speaking of Georgia Tech, I like Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech and Duke over North Carolina State. There you go, Ute. There's your picks.
All right.
So Immaculate, we discussed Duke versus North Carolina State to the Big 12 on Tuesday's show.
Okay.
And the Big 12 might be very interested in adding Duke over North Carolina State.
I can see it. From a Big 12 perspective, I could see why you would want Duke. In fact, I would agree. What I would say is I still believe that there is something else going on, but of course that's, conjecture. I could be dead wrong. If Duke was available to the Big 12 instead of North Carolina State, I would probably say take that. So, yeah, and the Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech, once again, I agree. You got UCF sitting down there on an island in Florida. You got to do something down there, in my opinion. That's why I've suggested USF if things don't all work out, smoothly with whatever happening, is to keep an eye on that, because that would be a perfect relationship to have between UCF and USF in the state of Florida, where you've also doubled the amount of times you get to visit Florida as a team visiting. But Georgia Tech being in Atlanta, I don't care what you think about them or their program. It's you going there and being there. And Georgia is a massive state too for players and for a lot of it's right up there in and surrounding Atlanta. So it's a great location.
It's a perfect location, a much needed location for the Big 12.
Yeah.
UCF right there. I mean,
I think
Georgia
he's
Tech
right.
is perfect.
I would say Georgia Tech over Virginia Tech for the Big 12, honestly.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh
it's me. Of course, I'm saying that because I think Georgia Tech is the sleeper.
I thought we were saying that as a joke before, though. Right?
There might be some.
I mean,
I'm not saying it's
not a
gonna
joke.
happen. I'm just saying
It's
that
not
you're
a joke.
just looking at the value of the program right now. No, I
Right.
get why someone would say no. But
Right.
like you're saying, these are long-term ads. You're like, what can we do with this? How is this going to benefit us as a whole? I don't know how you compare Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia to Virginia Tech in the mountains of Virginia and say it's not the better location to grab, especially if you're trying to build UCF into something big. That's a massive school with a massive alumni base in Orlando, in the heart of Florida, and you got to have something down there with them. If you're not going to add it in Florida itself, Georgia Tech, and just give them something.
Ryan Willie chimes in all the way from the wilderness in Wisconsin, saying I'd pick Virginia Tech over UVA for the Big Ten.
Ooh, we
He's
guys
throwing some heat.
think.
I don't know if the presidents would agree with you, but
Throwing
I
some heat.
certainly get it. I like a Virginia Tech Penn State rivalry in the future. I like Virginia Tech Rutgers, and I tend to think that if you give them money, they will do more with it than Virginia in football. They have people who are hungry.
It comes down to, does the Big Ten go more than 20 teams right now?
I don't think they're going into the state of Virginia, period. Like, I don't. I'm just saying, in his comparison,
right?
If you were to take one,
okay,
it's not crazy talk. I do think that you'd have some presidents to be like, why would we take Virginia, take over Virginia? And then it would be up to the, network execs and maybe some of the others to explain to them why. But yeah, I could see it.
Chad Bracey gives us another comment here. I think it's a good one. Do ACC teams find themselves scheduling against USF soon?
Yes, that's brilliant.
Probably.
Watch it happen.
Maybe something to look for. We're watching that right now with Oregon State signing with Big 12 teams, Washington State signing with Virginia, which I'm sorry. When I saw that, I was like, Virginia just stuck it to Washington State. Like, yeah, you can come here in 25 and we'll come there in 31. Like that might not even exist. Like, they might just in 29, the Virginia, like, you know what about that? Sorry, we can't.
Right.
Thanks for coming, though. Like,
the cancellation fees $1 million, you walk away.
Yeah.
I agree.
I saw that. I was like, because usually it's back to back, and that way it's harder to reschedule something else. But when you give them 4 years to find someone else,
that's true. Before I get to this next comment, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We're going to start winding down. If you want your comment to be read, it'll have to be a super chat unless I've already marked it. Just want to make sure everybody knows what's going on so you don't think, oh, I wanted to get my comment in and then we don't get to it. So super chats here from out. Otherwise, they'll be with comments that we've already picked. Appreciate everybody being here with us tonight on Friday. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and make sure you subscribe on YouTube and turn on those notifications, please. Let's see here. Dan Miter says, do you guys see a scenario where FSU and Clemson get out of the ACC and into the SEC as part of ESPN having rights to media? Moen, why won't that happen?
It's called a market allocation scheme. It violates antitrust laws. You can't have two markets allocate assets to another market. It's just like Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme saying, well, Dunkin' Donuts will get the North and Krispy Kreme will get the South. That's market allocation. You can't do that.
Yeah. If Florida State picks the Big Ten as the first move, it basically makes it free and clear for ESPN to do all of that, because now there's proof. You could go somewhere else.
Right.
But they also have to want you. But it's proof that it was possible. And so then they're free and clear to do whatever the hell they want to help anyone move anywhere, because that example has happened. So I do think that the FSU, the Big Ten, is actually important for maybe what ESPN would want to do too. Of course, that's not optimal. They probably would like to have Florida State in the SEC. But to what Moen's saying, the amount of cover fire from that's complete cover fire. They can do whatever they want after that.
Anybody else? Sorry, my wife's picking up some prescriptions for me. Let's see here. Get to an earlier comment way back when from Rock and Rant. He's one of our contributors and also one of our moderators. He says, Miami admin hits many cities, so I'm sure FSU does too. LA, San Francisco, Dallas, Fort Worth, Chicago, and New York and Boston. It's where the money is. Isn't Miami the Oregon pick for the Big Ten, and that's the brand value
100%. Exactly, Bomber. They are the Oregon pick for the Big Ten. It's a good fit. AAU status, brand new market, brand equity in Miami. So, yep. Miami fits well. And to Rocket Rant's point here, that Miami has alumni everywhere. Yeah, Florida State does too. They've got alumni in every city, every major city. Florida State's a massive university and reputable university. So they are everywhere. It's just where are they concentrated, right? Most concentrated, of course, it's going to be in the state of Florida. But that's also in Georgia, North Carolina, and weirdly enough, California. There's 2 or 3% of the alumni living in California, probably in LA, Silicon Valley. So spread out.
Immacular Moen, you want to add to that?
I think Florida State is the Oregon pick, and I think Miami would be the Washington pick because Miami, maybe people may not realize it, but it's got a pretty substantial medical hospital facility and research situation going on. I think that's more of the presidential pick. That's why when Greg spoke about it as such, I was like, okay, that makes sense to me if that's really what they'd want. And Florida State's more of the brand, like you're getting a major brand, kind of like Oregon. And that's why when I talk about Florida State, sometimes I jokingly call them Fox Sports University. It's Tallahassee, right on the beach. Like it's the fever, the culture of the school, like the things that they could do at that school. It's good in a lot of sports. There's a lot that goes on there. I just think that there's a ton of value in that brand. And despite the academic issues that they might have had with Oregon, they picked it up for other value. And that's the case with Florida State. Its value in so many other ways is there. And they are making, measures to improve. So I kind of see Miami as the already tried and true academic pick. Along with, there's some other things about Miami that it's becoming a major tech hub. In the future, as our hemisphere becomes a little more, Miami's going to become a major port and cultural influence area for a lot of South America, Central America. So I think it's a future pick, and I could see that being that way.
Moen, do you want to add to that at all?
No, I tend to agree with Florida State and Miami being the two picks simply because you want to lock down Florida.
Right.
You take the two biggest available in Florida. That leaves UCF in the Big 12 and USF possibly in the reformed ACC. It lets you keep Notre Dame out of Florida.
Appreciate it. Comment here from Illini Ted, who's not only a member, but he's a big time contributor on Discord. I'm going to post the link to join our Discord server. We invite everybody to do that. We try to do after shows depending on the night. I don't think I'm going to be able to do one tonight. Are any of you guys going to go to Discord after this tonight? If not, we'll plan on it Tuesday.
I can't tonight. I've got some plans right after this.
Okay, that's fine. Friday nights are tough for after shows.
Yeah.
If Rock and Rant was on, and he can poke me right now if he's still on, he likes to get on Discord, and he's a great admin there. But anyways, I encourage you guys to take that link I just posted, join the Discord, and join the conversation. We talk all week long. All of us are on Discord during the day. And it's growing every day. We're getting more people. The bigger the community, the more conversations we have. We have lots of voice channels. We have several text channels where you can discuss college football, the ACC settlement, all kinds of things. So we invite everybody to do that. Thank you, Illini Ted, for that shout out. I think Rock and Rant normally does that for me, and I think he's out on a date tonight probably. Let's see here. Steve, Ohio, Florida. I don't know if you guys heard this at all. I know Steve has some connections at Cincinnati, but he's saying, saw something, not sure how credible. 7 ACC members have contacted the Big 12. Wasn't clear if it was just third-party contact. I would add to that, we're not making any predictions here. We're not reporting any news. Steve's taking some information. He's saying maybe this is happening. Certainly, third-party contact is how the Four Corners came across. They didn't do a lot of formal stuff until Colorado moved. So wouldn't it be smart for the schools that are on the outs that aren't Florida State, Miami, and Clemson to be getting a hold of the Big 12 guys?
Well, you always you always have to kind of know what your options are. I mean, it doesn't mean necessarily that they all go there, but it does kind of show, if true, that there has already been considerations for what the future is going to be and where to go. And I think it's pretty clear that if Florida State and Clemson were to leave, the value of what the ACC is getting paid now is not going to be what it's getting paid in the future. And if you start adding on other parts to that, like North Carolina State, whoever, whatever you're going to say, Miami, it's just not going to be the same, and it's not going to be as high as the Big 12. So, or at least there's a chance that it wouldn't be. And so with that being the case, you have to at least figure out, hey, if things were to happen, are you receptive to us? I mean, 7 ACC, that one of those might be Boston College. I mean, we don't know who that is, but yeah, I would say that you might have even had more than 7 reach out.
Anybody else? Okay.
Hope for the best, expect the worst.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It's better to be too paranoid than not paranoid enough.
Yeah.
Here's another comment from Chad Bracey. Where did it go right there? If Lane Kiffin was still at Florida Atlantic would probably have been invited somewhere by now with a new stadium. What do you guys think about that?
That's a hard sell.
I think that's a big stretch.
Lane Kiffin's a bit big for that. I mean, that was a nice little fallback spot for him to show something, improve something. But he did help build their name, and he did help them probably get that built up. And so with the new facilities, you can then grab a better coach, not better than him, but better than what you would have been able to do otherwise. So they've still built up their brand, and it's still a great location. I could see them coming up at some point in time, and being in a AAC type of situation.
Next one. This is one political that I've basically been waiting for somebody to ask so we can talk about it without us bringing it up. The head of the Republican Party, a Republican group that controlled North Carolina Board of Governors, said his immediate goal is to stabilize and lock down the ACC now, meaning North Carolina wants to keep it going. This just means we just let the lawsuits play out, not going to be a fast Pac-12 crash and burn. First, Ute, he's hitting you there with the Pac-12 crash and burn. And then Immaculate, what do you think about the political part of that?
Yeah, I think that this isn't the same situation as the Pac-12. It's different. There's a contract in play. The Pac-12's contract was phasing out, but there's a common brashness and emotional stuff that's going on where people they will be panicking. So nothing's going to move in North Carolina. It's going to be stalemated, guys. We all know that based on the politics going on in the state. But the thing is, you also have to think what's exterior here, and that's what's going on in the state of Florida, the state of South Carolina, because you might not want things to move. You might say, hey, everything's great and everything. We want the AC to stay together in the state of North Carolina. But in Florida, if things shake out the way we think it will, and Miami escapes and Florida State escapes, and also Clemson gets out, then all of a sudden you're going to be forced to make decisions you didn't want to make. The information changes. So that's fine and all good and stuff that in North Carolina, they want everything to be nice and dandy with the ACC and they want to stick together. But the fact is they need everybody in every state to want to stick together. That's just not the case.
What do you think, Immaculate?
First off, I'd say I disagree in terms of there not being any similarities because of the contract situation. Remember, that contract is not guaranteed to 2036, and they have not opted in past 2027. So while the PAC situation was even shorter, granted, there is similarity like that. It is quite possible that contract is coming into an end in, I don't know, 2 to 3 years. That's not that long away. You'd have to start planning for that right now because most of these decisions are made 2 years in advance. So I'd say it's actually kind of similar. I've had some very heated discussions and arguments with folks about that similarity. People in the ACC would say the same thing, like there's nothing similar at all, but I tend to call that a cope. I get it. They don't want to see what happened to the PAC happen to the ACC. In terms of the person he's talking about, my response to that would be he's a Wake Forest grad. Of course, that's what he wants. They don't have a place. So, yeah, that's what he's wanting. In terms of the rest of the BOG, they are in the business of making the entire university system better. And if they can get both North Carolina and North Carolina State into the SEC making more money, that's less money that they have to then funnel to them, and they can get to their other 11 schools that are in the university system. Like they just started handing out $1 million to each one of them from the new gambling law in that state. That's their concern. Wake Forest is not their concern. So when he's saying they want to keep the ACC together, well, if you're Wake Forest, that's exactly what you want. So I know, that came out, but also he was saying that he didn't even really know how many lawsuits are going on right now.
Right.
He's not heavily clued into the situation.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that too.
Yeah, so his opinion is very much representative of what you probably find from most people in North Carolina that are wanting their traditional ACC like it's always been. I mean, this is the All Carolina Conference. We own this damn thing, right? And we've got 4 schools in it, a 4-vote voting block, and allies right around us that generally vote with us. So I get it. It's just the market forces are not pushing in that direction.
Moen, do you want to add anything to that?
They're in the denial stage of grief right now. They're going to deny.
Yes.
Eventually, within a couple months, it'll be bargaining and then acceptance.
So we're gonna
Just pay 'em
finish
more.
this comment, or with this last comment from Steve O, High Florida, that goes right to what Moen was saying. ACC versus PAC scenario is there are members of the ACC in denial, just as a few PAC members were in denial also. Then financial reality slapped them in the face. Moen, what's your parting thought going out on that?
There's a few differences, but it's the same story arc. We have different antagonists and protagonists, but it's the same story arc. You're going to have people drug into the Big 12 who didn't want to get drug into the Big 12. You're going to have people who desperately want to keep the ACC together at all costs. At all costs, they will fail spectacularly, I believe. And you're going to have the Big 10 and the SEC furthering the gap between the Big 12 and themselves.
Very good. Immaculate?
Yeah, Steve's on it. And I really try to gingerly go into that because I know this is it's still a very sensitive situation for a lot of people, including one of our own. And so I just, I step into it lightly, but it's true. I from an outside perspective, I'm an Iowa guy. Realignment's really not been good for us, so I'm just watching because I want it done. But I see a lot of similarities to the situation, and where he's talking about is the people. People's looking at it and what they see and what they're willing to believe. You tend to rationalize what you want, and that can lead you to miss out on what's happening. And that's what I think a lot of ACC folks are doing right now. And when they get someone like this guy who makes these comments, which to most of us who are really clued in, we can look and say, he doesn't really know that much about what's going on.
Right.
But to most people, they don't know that. And they're like, he's powerful. If he's saying this is what's happening, right? Because that's very helpful in rationalizing what they want to be. So, it is what it is. And I just try to help them see this so that way when it happens, they're not caught completely off guard.
Ute, you get the last word on this one.
You are what the media companies and the college football playoff says you are. Really, that's the fact of this. That's the financial reality. And that's hard to digest for schools because you're looking at the Big 12 conference who survived over the Pac-12 and all the 4 corner schools that were brought over by themselves, in my opinion, had above median valuations over the Big 12. So they were a value add to the Big 12 all the way around and stuff. And so when you're in an individual school looking at that situation, you're like, well, I'm bringing more in than I'm getting to a conference. But the fact is that really the media partners made that decision. And based on strategic things that go on behind the scenes, sometimes it forces your hand. There's nothing you can freaking do about it. And so, yeah, there is a bit of denial, but it's hard to accept because based on your own valuations, based on what you think you're worth and everything, you think that you're at a certain level. And then all of a sudden, things force you to somewhere else that you don't think or you want to be. And that's what's going to happen in the ACC. That's what happened to the Pac-12. That's what's going to happen in the ACC Same thing's going on with like the Pitt fans arguing, saying, hey, we are too good for the Big 12. Same thing's going to happen with all these ACC schools, but they're going to come down. And ultimately, they'll see that's just the reality of the market forces, as Immaculate saying. It's really the market forces at play here. It's the media contracts. It's the college football playoff money that's going in. It's really just the dollars that are driving these decisions. And it doesn't matter what you think as a school. Unless you're a massive brand, you're basically just going to get washed through the wave. And right now, the Big 12 has a contract and stability for a variety of reasons. And so they're a better landing spot than the ACC, which is going to get gobbled up. So they can deny all they want, ACC folks, but it's going to break apart.
And I'll just say this last, and that is, being a third-party observer, obviously I can't predict the future, but I saw into the future that we were going to end up here with the Pac-12. I said it for a year or more. That happened, and now we're at the ACC. And yeah, they are different. The Pac-12 didn't have a media deal. They were looking to renew. But the situations of the schools, the way they think about their conference is so similar. The ACC and the Pac-12 are mirror images of each other. And there's a reason why they're the ones struggling on multiple levels. Most important thing is they're regional conferences. The Pac-12 stuck on the West Coast. The ACC pretty much stuck on the East Coast. Nowhere in the middle. And that's why the Big 12, just a pure numbers perspective, was able to sort of bridge those two gaps. And that's why they're around. And the Pac-12 isn't. So we'll end up on that. Let's say some final comments. I want to let's see here. There was a comment here from Connor, who we haven't seen for a little bit. So I'm going to say that. Go Beavs. He says, good to see you, Connor.
Jeez.
All right, Moen, what's your final thought going tonight?
Cincinnati picked a kid from Michigan in the draft.
What?
Fantastic.
What?
They do that every year. It is what it is. My draft has not been very fruitful. But hopefully your team's draft has been fruitful and you're not down on your team for their selections. God bless everybody in the ACC. I didn't mean anything bad by it. I still think North Carolina State's a great ad.
There you go. What do you think, Immaculate, going into the weekend?
I got my eyes on a few different other things, but I'm kind of interested in heavily focused on what's going to come out of the USC case in LRB. But that's probably going to be sometime within the next month. I'm very interested to see if we get some push due to this AG case. So if people are looking real short term, watch for some reaction to that. Watch for some reactions from other AGs from the states that got the letters. And just stay tuned. I think that we're going to have a lot pop off before football starts. So, we got a whole lot's going to happen in a very short amount of time.
Ute.
Clemson's a strong Big Ten contender. That's for you, Moan.
Toga.
All right, everybody. Georgia Tech. I hope everybody had fun tonight. Friday night. I hope your NFL teams pick well. Unless you're Dallas, I think you probably win, or Atlanta. Dallas or Atlanta. They're not doing so good. I appreciate everybody for being here. Make sure you follow us all on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you turn on your notifications. Consider becoming a member of the College Football Mafia Network so you can watch all of our member videos. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Stay out of trouble. Our next show will be Sunday night. Moen, you want to preview that?
Yeah, Sunday, 8 o'clock, Moen After Dark. We take your questions. We take your comments. We have a few laughs. We slap each other around. It's a good time.
Immaculate, you want to add anything to that?
No, he's right. It's a bit of a cut loose type of a situation. However, whatever comes from chat's kind of what we lean on. It's chat driven, so a lot of fun. Folks that definitely come on in and check it out.
There we go. And then obviously on Monday nights with Pickles and Becky, there's the Big West Mafia show. And there's going to be some stuff to talk about. There are a lot of old Pac-12 schools that had players drafted in the first two rounds, certainly. Probably going to be a bunch more throughout the rest of the NFL draft. So that'll be a lot of fun for Pickles to talk about. So I appreciate everybody being here tonight. Have a safe evening. Please If you've been drinking, Georgia Tech, do not drive. We don't want any drunk drivers. I'm really against that. I know that sounds silly, but I'm really against that. And I hope everybody stays out of trouble. Other than that, unless you want to say something else, we're going to say peace out and get out of here. See ya.
Adios.
Go Utes.